World of Halo fans, we are back with our second out of 3 2-packs from Series 5. This is the infamous Series 5 World of Halo. Right now, it can only be found in Canada. It is supposed to hit the States, so we're hoping that's going to happen sooner than later. Got to give a big shout out to my friend Kelsi for tracking these down for me. She lives in Canada. She went out of her way multiple times to track these down. She was successful, shipped them my way. Thank you again so much. Be sure to give her some love, but don't harass her for a bunch of figures. Before we move on, let's look at the back of the packaging with the rest of the figures released in Series 5. So, right-hand side, we have our 2 packs. 2 figures per pack, and then on the left-hand side, we have 6 individual single-pack figures. I have already reviewed Chief and the Flood Tank, so if you want to get all the details, be sure to check that one out. For if and when this does hit the States, here is the barcode. Be sure to screenshot this. That will help you track this down if it does end up in store. I do not have the DPCI because this is not yet in a Target system. So if you played Halo Wars, then you understand why we're getting these 2 in a pack. So we have Sgt Forge and Arbiter Ripa Moramee. Throughout the game, you can see them going at it back and forth. It actually has some really great cutscenes. Spoiler alert, in the beginning, Ripa Moramee does best Sgt Forge, but towards the end, Ripa Moramee does meet his demise by the blade of Sgt Forge named Lucy. Taking a closer look at Sgt Forge, we have the Spirit of Fire emblem on the right shoulder. As we move to the front of the chest plate, we have 9 legendary symbols. I'm not quite sure exactly what those represent. I'm assuming it's some sort of like kills or some sort of achievement. On the left shoulder, he has the Chemical Division emblem, which is like a gold dragon type of logo. And then below that, we have an Ace of Spades, which in our world, World War II and Vietnam War, that's considered like a good luck charm, so that's cool that they added that and they were able to actually stamp these on the figure. Aside from Sergeant Johnson, which I don't have, this is the first time they've really tried to do a face print technology on the World of Halo figures. And you know, it looks okay. It needs some work, but I mean, you can see that there's a 5 o'clock shadow, the lips are more defined, and then the eyes have more life to them, compared to our, other like Marines that have faces. The rest of his paint is okay. I mean, he needs a lot of weathering, that's for sure. I think a lot of these greens and browns are a little too bright. We need something a little bit more muted. So I would say like maybe a nice black wash would really help this out a lot. I do like the grays at the shins and at the knees. I think those match really well to his character. Same thing for his back and sides. I think a good black wash would help mute this and make it look better. His weapon of choice is the shotgun. The paint looks really good on this. I like the sculpting. You can see the texture on the grip. Flip hand side, you can see the pin to be placed on the back of him. Same thing for the rest of the figures. He has a hex hole for the pin. Place it on and it fits nice and snug. He looks like he has some great articulation, so we'll start with the left arm. The shoulder can go up, ooh, wow, a good little bit above 90 degrees. So it looks like this shoulder armor piece is attached to like the middle part of the bicep, so you can get a good range of motion there. That shoulder is on a swivel and hinge. Pretty much, I mean, we're not going to be really surprised on these figures. I mean, the articulation has stayed the same. So we have good flexion there. We have a swivel at the bicep. We can do a little bit of a hyperextension there. We have some flexion at the anterior portion of the wrist. And then it is also on a swivel. From there, the torso is on a ball joint, a little bit of flexion moving forward and backwards, but we haven't really seen a whole lot of motion from these torsos as it is. The legs are at a ball joint like we've already seen. We have internal and external rotations, so the top of the leg is on a swivel joint. We have double joints here at the knees, which we've already seen previously. Looks great. Ankle is on a swivel. Wrapping that up, going to the head, it is on a hinge, and I believe a swivel as well, rotating all the way around. Ripa Moramee is the 17th Arbiter, and he is depicted as one of the more savage and ruthless ones. He is shown wearing a silver armor, and you can see there is a nice black weathered contrast in between the lines of the armor. That looks really good. His sculpt is awesome. He is wielding 2 energy swords. I think the only thing really missing is at the base of the handle of the energy swords. I believe there is supposed to be like a hand guard. At least that's the way I've seen it in Halo Wars. Here's a close-up of the energy swords. They are pretty standard from what we've already seen in this World of Halo line. I would say they're maybe a little bit more of a deeper blue. There's not so much white on them. And then again, they are a softer type of plastic, so they're not super hard or anything like that. Here is the evolution of energy swords, starting from left to right, left being the oldest, the first one that came with our first elite, and then we have the one that came with our UNSC armory set, and then Mira Moramee's 2 double energy swords. Taking a close-up of the head, you can see that the eyes are painted in. Nice sculpt on this. The weathering looks good on this figure, better than Sgt Forge. Again, I like the black contrast in between the grooves of the armor. That really makes it stand out. My joints overall are okay. They are a little loose at the hips. So he kind of does the splits a little bit easier if I am trying to stand him. Articulation, starting with the head, it is on a swivel and a hinge. There's not a whole lot of flexion going downwards just because the chin kind of gets in the way, but you have a little bit of movement and then you can spin that around. At the shoulders, they are on a hinge and swivel. You can bring the left shoulder up about that high. This armor piece is actually glued to the upper part of the bicep and not to the upper part of the shoulder, so you will be able to get a decent range of motion there. So with that being said, you can spin this all the way around, and then at the bicep, it is on a hinge and swivel, a little less than 90 degrees, and then we have a little bit of hyperextension, not a whole lot. The wrist, the joint can break right here at the front, and we should be able to flex that forward and backwards. It is also on a swivel. At the right shoulder, you can bring it up about as high as the other side. So this larger armor piece is actually attached to like the top part of the chest plate and not the top part of the shoulder, so that'll give you the same type of range of motion. Torso is on a ball joint, and you can spin him from side to side. Moving down to the legs, again, they are on a ball joint, just like we've seen with our other Arbiter. You can bring them inwards and outwards as well. From there, we have double breaks at the knees. The first top joint can go back about that far, and then forwards. They are both on swivels, and then the next joint down. Normally, we would have a greater range of motion, but just the nature of this one sculpted armor piece, you're going to have a harder time actually flexing this and posing the figure, but it still has a little bit of range of motion going forwards and backwards, and then is also on a swivel. And then because this is one molded piece, there is no ankle articulation. This is just all one solid sculpt. Here's a side-by-side comparison of our Halo 3 Arbiter next to Ripa Moramee. I really love his armor style. It's just really aggressive and intimidating looking. Since I don't have the Halo 2 Chief from this line, here is Halo 3 standing next to Ripa Moramee. Overall, my final thoughts on this set, I think it's a good set. It's not my favorite they've ever done. There are some areas lacking, mostly with Sgt Forge. He definitely needs a lot more weathering. He kind of looks a little too maybe plasticky in areas, and I think his armor and coloring style needs to be a little bit more muted. And then with the face print technology, I mean, this is probably the first time they've really given this a go, so it doesn't look amazing, but you know, if they keep working at it and keep doing it, it's gonna look even better. Ripa Moramee is definitely the highlight from this set. I think his sculpt is great. It's aggressive, intimidating. His face sculpt is awesome. His paint applications on his eyes are pretty good. The only issues I'm really having is just loose joints at the base of the hips. He does tend to do the splits a little bit easier. And then from there, you're not going to have any crazy ankle or foot articulation. There's no joint there, but that's kind of the nature of his armor style and just his design in general, so it kind of is what it is. And finally, I would have liked to have had that like handguard at the base of the energy sword. It's not a deal breaker for me, but you know, it would have been nice to have for sure. So the price is about $25 USD, so that's pretty in line with what we've seen already with this World of Halo line. But that is it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful for you. Be sure to follow me on Instagram. My name is Nostalgic Adam, all one word, where I do toy photography, toy videos, toy hunts, toy deals, and all things toy related. Link in the description below. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow. It is free, and I will see y'all in the next video.